welcome to SVG TV News for Thursday, August 31st, 2023. I am Rochelle Matisse with the details. But before we continue, we have an announcement to make. SVG TV has been experiencing some technical problems with its site on Channel 11 at Great House. SVG TV has been working to have this problem resolved as soon as possible and apologizes for the inconvenience caused. However, we may unfortunately have to replace the equipment depending on unforeseen circumstances. Thanking you for your patience. Now the details. As the conversation continues here in SVG on pension reform, a panel discussion was hosted last evening by the National Insurance Services, the NIS, under the theme Embracing Pension Reform to Secure Our Future Together. Chairman of the Board of Directors of the NIS, Lennox Bowman, said the event marks an integral part of their social dialogue with stakeholders on pension reform, noting that at the level of the board, they champion and promote good governance in the administration of the NIS.
Oversight to management for bolstering internal governance in the operations of the NIS. For instance, in 2021, the board engaged an independent international organization comprising professionals from the ESA and the World Bank to perform an independent and comprehensive assessment of the internal governance and operations of the NIS. This independent diagnosis revealed that the NIS's governance and operational framework are sound and aligned with best practices. For the NIS, governance is not merely a strategic priority, it is the core of our being. On our journey to further bolster our governance practices and procedures, we are strategic and international in adopting a comprehensive consultation process around pension reform. To this end, we contracted a professional consultant to develop a communication plan to provide a pragmatic roadmap for the NIS to engage and educate the public on a sustained basis in all aspects of our services, including the pension reform process.
Bowman said in the coming weeks and months, they will continue to build public awareness on pension reform through extensive face-to-face engagements with stakeholders and with targeted and tailored public outreach programs via traditional and social media platforms. Thanking the government for its support in ensuring the NIS operates on a sustainable financial and actuarial basis, Bowman said the collective and coordinated efforts to promote the institution's sustainability amidst the challenges must redound to the benefit of all of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Also addressing the opening ceremony of the panel discussion was Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology, Camila Gonzalez, who said the reform of the NIS and more importantly pension reform is a critical part of the government and the nation resilience building mechanism going forward.
We cast it as part of our resilience building for a very simple reason. Our countries are small. Our countries lack large financial cushions, and in every aspect of our development, we have to try to look down the road and see where we can build resilience against future shocks. And we've done it, for example, and it's not NIS, but it's the same resilience building. We've done it when we set up a contingencies fund, because we know, even though we don't know when, we know that natural disasters will affect us. And we have to set something aside to prepare for that eventuality. And we have changed laws, and we have modified building codes, and we have prepared ourselves for the eventualities as best we can of future exogenous shocks. And we have tried to make our economy more resilient against future exogenous shocks. And similarly, we are in a position now where looking forward, we see that we have to make the NIS and the pensions of Vincentians more resilient against demographic shocks and changes that are coming down the road.
Minister Gonzalez said it is also important to know and recognize that the NIS is an integral partner in national development, noting that it plays a role in securing the future of working and retired Vincentians and currently plays a critical role in investing in social outreach and in partnering with all facets of society in meeting our own development aspirations. The Finance Minister said it is also important to recognize that the NIS in SVG is a well-managed organization.
Through Stuart's time and through the time of his predecessors, and repeated objective analyses by third parties have made the point that this NIS is a well-run, well-managed organization. We, however, recognize that from time to time, this is not the first time, and it likely will not be the last time, from time to time, demographic changes require adjustments to the NIS and pension schemes. There have been repeated instances in the past where we've had to adjust rates, where we've had to adjust retirement ages. And we look at the demographics, and these three people on this side down here, the actuaries, look at the data. How fast is your population growing? How many old people do you have? How long are they living? How many active working people are supporting each retiree with their contributions? What rate of return are we getting on our investments? And how can those investments offset the growing population of retired people and their needs? And they make the analyses and then make recommendations to us about when and how reforms should take place.
Stressing the importance of reform of the NIS and its pension system, Minister Gonzalez told the gathering that after years of raising the issue and saying it, they believe that the time is now for the reforms to take place.
Wanted to do it 2 years ago, and the labor movement will remember I had raised it with them, with this issue with them then. But we had the intervening challenge of COVID, and we didn't think that it was an opportune time to be reforming the NIS and to changing pension rates at the same time when the economy was contracting and people were losing their jobs, and we did not know the depth or the scope or the scale of the COVID contraction. But as soon as we began to emerge, we said we were going to put this important resilience issue back on the front burner. And here we are. In a statement to the Parliament back in July, I indicated to the public on behalf of the government that we wanted to consult with stakeholders. We wanted to have discussion and debate for 4 months from that date, that July date. That would take you July, August, September, October, November. And that at that point, with the public having heard from everybody here and from the NIS having heard from the public about what is feasible, what is palatable, what is manageable, what can garner consensus, at that point we will synthesize our specific recommendations, present them again to the public at the end of the year, and put them in the budget for the new year, 2024. It is fair enough to say that those will include an increase in the retirement age. It is fair enough to say that it will include an increase in the contribution rate. It is fair enough to say that it will include ways to at least incentivize getting more self-employed people into the NIS. And it is fair to say that it will include ways in which we can harmonize the NIS benefits with the government pension benefits.
Providing some statistics of the position of the NIS 20 years ago to now, actually Derek Osborne pointed out that the number of contributors to the NIS has not grown very much, from 34,000 to now at 42,000, with the number of pensioners grown almost 3 times, from 3,500 to almost 9,000. And this is an area of concern when they look at the growing gap between expenditure and contributions, as well as the reserves of the NIS falling at a quick rate approaching zero.
Twice a month, almost 9,000 people get money in their account like clockwork from the NIS, making a big difference in their lives. You see below $85 million paid out last year in benefits, compared to only 11 million 20 years ago, right? Things are changing. We see that the gap between the contribution rate and the expenditure rate that was positive 20 years ago, 1.2%, is now negative 3.3%. So we're taking in 10% on average in contributions, we're paying out 13.3 in benefits. And as you all know, in your own house, even if you have savings, if you spend more than you take in, eventually your savings will be dried up. We see that the size of the reserve relative to expenses, which is the reserve expenditure ratio, used to be 17, now it's less than 5. So there's essentially 5 years left of money in the fund if we had no contribution income. The little pictures below show that, there used to be a lot of people putting in for every one taken out, and now there are fewer people putting in for every one taken out. And the same thing applies to your family. If you have plenty of children, it's not difficult to take care of mommy and daddy. If you only have 2 children, it's more difficult. On the right-hand side, we see a picture with the contribution rate that has been adjusted several times. It's now at 10%. But we see the green line, which is the expenditure, increasing significantly over time, showing that gap I spoke about earlier of the 3.3%. And then on the bottom chart is the reserve ratio, which essentially says how big the fund is relative expenditure, and is decreasing significantly over time.
In terms of the goals of the reforms, the actuary maintains a position that a balance will have to be found between benefits and contributions to ensure the sustainability of the NIS for generations to come.
Charts I've taken from the last actuarial review. The one on the left shows the reserves, just under 500 million 3 years ago, and we see that the projected deficit depletion is 2034. So the first goal of reforms is to push that line to the right. On the right-hand side, we see a curve that says the cost of the system, the pay-as-you-go rate, which is increasing upward of 30% down the road. The goal is to bring that down. So it's closer between the contribution rate and the expenditure rate. So if we think about pensions and we think about the NIS and what we're trying to do, yes, we want to pay benefits that are meaningful, that allow people to live a reasonable standard of living. But we also want our workers and employers to be able to afford that contribution. If you think about it, you want to pay less, but you still want a big benefit. Those two are competing priorities. We also need to ensure that our children and grandchildren are not going to pay 25%, what many of you paid 10 or less % for. That's not fair to our generations to come. So we have to find that balance. We have to find that sweet spot between what we promise in benefits, what we're going to charge in contributions, and ensuring that we're sustainable for generations to come.
In other news now, we heard that a 2-day summit involving ministers of agriculture from the OECS sub-region commenced here today at the NIS conference room. The 2-day summit opened with a Council of Ministers meeting, followed by a panel discussion tomorrow. Key to the discussions is the recently crafted Food and Agriculture Systems Transformation, the FAST strategy, which was launched recently in Grenada and was created to establish more efficient and sustainable methods for food and agriculture production, processing and distribution to offset rising food costs. Director General of the OECS, Dr. Didicus Jules, said in the next 5 to 10 years, he expects that the FAST strategy will change the DNA of the region's agriculture sector.
In a meeting today with Minister Caesar, one of the things that was noted is the fact when we analyze, and it's important that we learn the lessons of the past, when we analyze why the banana industry in the Windward Islands was so successful, all of the answers to what we need to do in FAST are embedded in that experience. If you recall, in the banana industry, it was successful because the farmers were well organized into farmers producers associations, which had tremendous power in their own right and some degree of autonomy in managing their affairs. We had the shipping arrangements put in place with geese industries. We had the distribution. We had ripening centers. We had, every aspect of it was covered. And this is just for one product, for bananas. Even the research and development, the Windban Center in St. Lucia played a critical role. It was a world-class center for research on bananas. So we talk about, the knowledge piece, knowledge generation, developing expertise, organizing the producers, the production part, inputs for farmers. All the production pieces were in place. The distribution was in place. The marketing was in place, including preferential access to the British market. So we are taking the lessons of that and transferring it now into what should be the way forward for agriculture in light of what has often been termed VUCA situations, a situation of uncertainty, volatility, ambiguity that we find ourselves in now. But at the core of that is to ensure, and with climate change too, that's a further complication of the problem. Because you see what happens, look at what happens with St. Vincent with a volcano in your richest production areas. Look at what happened with hurricanes in Grenada, in Dominica, complete obliteration of production. So we have to ensure going forward that our agricultural sector is organized in such a way that obviously we can't cut ourselves off from the rest of the world. We will continue to import, but just as we import, we'll be exporting. And in the event of any disaster, no matter what the nature of that disaster is, we can survive. We can continue to maintain our nutritional and health status.
Tomorrow's panel discussion on the FAST strategy will begin at 9 a.m. at the NIS conference room. In more local news now, we hear that despite the late start of the annual work program on schools across St. Vincent and Grenadines, Minister of Education Curtis King has given the assurance that all schools will be ready for the start of the new academic year on Monday, September 4th, 2023. Minister King was at the time addressing a Leadership in Action seminar for principals on Tuesday at the UWI Open Campus.
The opening of school, and I know again that there are concerns among parents because the annual work program, which is carried out by BRAXA, got started late. And don't totally blame BRAXA, but the point is the work got started late, and naturally some principals are concerned. But I can assure you that we'll be ready come September 4th, which is next Monday, for the reopening of schools. Yes, and I usually make this statement very honestly. Yes, everything is not going to be perfect, but you're going to be in a position where you can perform because the environment, while not perfect, will be comfortable. And so we are making that push. Of course, we at the level of the cabinet, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow with all the various stakeholders involved in the process. And we will iron out whatever difficulties that still exist Okay?
On the issue of the care of furniture in schools, Minister King urged school leaders to encourage students to take great care of the furniture in their classroom.
Good look at that. But the whole vexing problem of furniture. Yes, we have commenced the distribution, and I wish I could have said to you that we will get it all right. But I know it won't happen. What I would promise is that we would continue to make that effort to try and meet your needs. But I'm going to ask you again, as principals, as leaders, you have to impress on your school's population that, look, furniture, they're expensive. Greater care must be taken of these things. If you don't, obviously you're going to have a challenge replacing them. And I'm telling you, because I visit schools, we have too much unnecessary destruction of our furniture in schools, putting a lot of pressure on the system to replace them. So please, let us work on that.
In terms of staffing, the education minister said this will no longer be a concern as the government is working hard to ensure that there are enough teachers at the various schools.
The ratio of teacher to students in the primary school, 1 to 13, sorry, 1 to 12. 1 teacher for every 12 students. And the ratio in the secondary schools, 1 teacher to every 13 students. Now, of course, that is dealing with shared numbers where teachers are concerned. But we do recognize, and don't forget, I'm an educator myself, spent all my life there. We do recognize, however, that in some of the subject disciplines, we have a challenge. Yes? And we are working to deal with that. But I want to say that come September 4th, we will have enough teachers available. Well, we have enough already. But we are going to add to that because sometimes the distribution across the country is not always what we would want for one reason or the other. So despite the fact that we have so many teachers, we still have some schools that are in need of teachers. And so we are going to meet that because we always have a large number of, well, a pool of trained teachers and others where we find relief teachers to assist in the process. So
Minister King also noted that starting this school year, there will be a greater level of TVET training in schools across St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We said, look, if we are going to transform our education system, then we must make some serious changes in the curriculum. I'm happy to report that at the level of the primary schools, that process has commenced, and we are working within the regional organization, that known of the OECS. And I know that they have trained persons to work in this process, and they have done well, they have prepared some documents with some of these changes, but it is still work in progress. Where the secondary schools are concerned, this year in the lower secondary schools, we are going to pilot a project aimed at shifting significantly what takes place in the junior school starting in Form 1. And I'm not going in detail as I said, but basically we are responding not only to the recommendation for changes in the curriculum, but also to a next recommendation that pointed to the need for greater levels of skills training and skills acquisition in our school system.
And President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, has expressed concern with the late start of the annual work program on schools across the country that is being executed by BRAXA. Robinson said that he is concerned about the health problems that the late start can cause for the students and teachers as they return to the classroom from Monday, September 4th.
We have 8 weeks school vacation, and you can't tell me you see some painting just being done, especially when it comes to the interior of classrooms. You know, the paint needs a little time to dry properly so that you can put on the second coat. And if you have children occupying classrooms which the painting is pretty green or wet, as we should say, then that could impact on the health. I am also seeing construction work being done where cement is being used to do major work around schools, and it's sad that this is being done at this time. I also saw major construction work going on, and I know those schools are going to be reopened while the construction work is going on, and that is a very risky situation. You cannot have major construction work while school is going on. It impacts on the school environment, making the classroom not really conducive for learning. And it also has implications for the safety of teachers and students. So that is our major concern. There are some schools that have problems with toilet facilities, toilets not functioning, poor drainage. I'm seeing some schools that are close to the rivers, people trim the grass in the river and leave it right there. And that is like a haven for the breeding of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, especially the Aedes aegypti mosquito, it spreads a lot of diseases which impacted on the school population. And that is now a potential health risk. So we need to ensure that the schools are properly clean on time so that it would reduce the risk of health and safety for the students and the teachers of the school.
The SVGTV president is also appealing to the Ministry of Education to ensure that all schools are provided with the basic resources before opening.
Contribute to quality education. I want to encourage the Ministry of Education to make a concerted effort to ensure that schools are provided with the basic resources. Too many burdens are placed on parents. Parents have already paid large registration fees, uniform, books, everything that is necessary to equip their students, their children, for the beginning of the new school year. And sometimes it's a burden where schools have to turn to parents to provide basic things of which the Ministry of Education ought to provide. Things like cleaning detergents, broom, mopping buckets, And if the ministry could really come forward and provide more, we're seeing they're providing less. Over the last couple of years, they need to be contributing more so that less burden would be on these parents. Parents have to dig their hands in their pockets to find these money. There are some schools that almost every month there is something that is needed. I'm not saying that parents must not support the schools, but the Ministry of Education have a responsibility to provide for these schools so that teachers would have the relevant supplies in order to perform their work.
Robinson said it is also important that parents continue to instill discipline in their children. He further noted that there is a serious problem with vandalism in schools that need to stop.
I want to ask parents to work very closely with their schools, ensure that their students have the relevant materials necessary for schooling, and to assist teachers, especially when it comes to the issue of discipline. I want to encourage the students to take care of these properties of the school, because we have problems with vandalism, and it ranges from one level to the next. There are instances where school materials are being damaged, defaced, and especially the toilet facilities, which are so fragile. Sometimes they are not being well taken care of.
Contestant number 4 in the Miss SVG pageant, Arina Foyd, sponsored by Massey Stores Limited, will be conducting her Gecko Community Service Project focusing on the blue economy. Her project will run from September 8th to the 16th under the theme Tied to Thrive, United for Cleaning Oceans by Enriching Caribbean Waters for Future Generations. Foyd, who hails from Kittels, said her project aims to harness the incredible potential of the oceanic resources and create a sustainable and prosperous future for all.
Holds immense untapped potential. And by embracing the principles of the blue economy, we can unlock new opportunities for economic growth, job creation, and environmental conservation. However, we also face numerous challenges such as overfishing, marine pollution, and climate change, which threaten the health of our oceans and well-being of our community. By shifting our focus towards a sustainable blue economy, we can address these challenges and ensure a brighter future for our generation and for ourselves. I have always wanted to give back to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it is indeed a great pleasure to finally be in a position to serve my country, my community, and make an impact on this world, however small. I plan to focus on 3 great initiatives through Tied to Thrive, and we will confront the factors threatening our dear blue economy. With our focus being the cleanup of 3 beautiful beaches in my neighborhood. Those 3 beautiful beaches will be the Kittels Beach, Lomans Leeward Beach, and Clare Valley. We will also be having a sustainable fishing practices workshop, along with a deep dive to monitor and restore coral, as well as removing any debris from within its midst.
Foyd will begin her community service project with a beach cleanup exercise on September 8th at Lomans.
Second activity will be focused on coral reef monitoring and restoration, called Deep Dive. This will take place at the Kittels Beach with myself and Joshua Gooding, along with my personnel from the SVG Fisheries Division. Our purpose will be to dive and monitor the coral reef in the Kittels Beach area, as well as remove any debris from within its midst. Thirdly, our Sunny Sweet Beach cleanup on September 13th at the Clare Valley beachfront will take place with our usual water sporting activities. Next up is our movement towards advocating for sustainable fishing practices with our workshop Sustain as Sea, taking place at the Kittels Learning Resource Center on the 14th of September at 5:30 p.m. So we're inviting all our fishermen, and we're extending a warm and hearty invite to everyone in my neighborhood and surrounding areas. Sadly, and lastly but not least, is our final step towards a thriving blue economy, with Tied to Thrive's final activity, Closing Sunny Sweep Beach Cleanup Campaign. This will be held on the 16th of September at the Kittels Beach. This will be similar to our other cleanup campaigns, but on a much larger scale, as we intend to end on a high note. This is geared towards developing eco-friendly tourism initiatives and showcase the beauty of our marine environment while preserving its integrity. This is geared towards developing eco-friendly tourism initiatives that showcase the beauty of marine environment while preserving its integrity. This will not only attract visitors but also create opportunities for our community members. As we embark on this journey towards a healthy blue economy with the Tied to Thrive project, Let us embrace sustainable practices, raise awareness about the importance of our oceans, and work together to preserve, enhance marine resources for the benefit of present and future generations. Through Tide to Thrive's project, with the expertise of Joshua Gooding and personnel from the SVG Fisheries, along with all of our other sponsors and collaborators, we will chart the course towards a responsible and sustainable ocean management. Together, let us ride the tide of progress and create a thriving blue economy that benefits us all.
The Miss SVG pageant is slated for October 7, 2023, when 9 young ladies will vie for the title of Miss SVG 2023.